going. All right. I'm gonna start.
I don't see.
Gonna be one of those.
I don't even see anything.
All right, here we go. Dear Lord, thank you for time together to study information which, if we can put it into our lives, it'll become practical knowledge, which will be so valuable in helping us learn about ourselves. And in getting to know ourselves, then we'll be able to learn how to make ourselves better, and in turn make the world around us better. In the name of Jesus, amen. Okay. The question is, because you hear this all the time, we need to get a common idea in our minds about the word ego, right? Now, overall in psychology, you hear the term ego, id, and I guess, I can't even remember what the other one is, unconscious or something, but what we're going to talk about today is what the ego is, right? Now just to give you the quick overview, this self, the self that's writing, the self that's thinking, the self that's hearing me speak, or me, the self that's speaking, all right, is the ego. Are you aware of that? Did anybody know that? Okay. So when you hear the word ego, that's it. Basically, the self that you know of yourself, that you think of as yourself, is the ego. Okay? We rarely get in touch with other aspects, the deeper and different aspects of ourselves. However, we can, and we can also learn how to expand our awareness and include that in our ego. Okay? So let's just get right down to the word or the definition of the day of what we're going to learn. You guys are ahead of me. You've already made your little box. But this on my book is in chapter 2. For me, it's page 31. It's in session 615. Way deep towards the end of the session.
Session which?
615. And I need you to find it in your books, which I guess you need here. If I can get some. This one you have to be a little careful with. For sake that everybody has repeated, this is out of the book The Nature of Personal Reality. Chapter 2, which is, we should know the name by now. Something about personal beliefs. Reality and personal beliefs. And session 615, this information was dictated in 1972 on September 18th. Okay, this is still out of the same session as last week. Alright, here's a way to find it. Keep going through the times, which are in parentheses on the left, to 1140. And it's not the first paragraph, we're going to look at the second paragraph. So, has anybody found it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Even though we're only going to do one sentence, it looks like it's 14 words. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14. So that's overall a lot of words to memorize.
And what is it? What is this?
This is the sentence. The ego is your idea of your physical image in relation to the world.
Alright, it's 11:40, right?
Yeah, but see how it starts at 11:40 where it says the ego is an offshoot of the conscious mind? Go down to the next paragraph,
Oh, okay.
and that's the first sentence of that next paragraph is what we're going to focus on.
The ego is your idea of physical image in relation to the world?
Yes. That is it. That's the definition we're going to use.
Alright, where are we?
Chapter 2, session 615, on to time 1140, the second paragraph under 1140.
It's roughly around page 30.
Okay.
Okay. Do you see the sentence, the ego is your idea
Yes.
of your physical image in relation to the world? Now, let's title tonight's session will be called, I think the easiest way will be to just call it the ego, okay? The ego. And instead of putting your ego or my ego, the reason I'm doing that is because the ego is thrown around so much that I want to get to some common definition so we know what it is that we're talking about. Okay. So now, the whole idea is we're going to write this out in the capitals and we're going to break it down into 14 words and maybe 3 lines. Let's see. Alright, these are going to be, the first line will be the ego is your idea, the second line will be of your physical image, and the third line will be in relation to the world. Okay, you all got that?
Yes. So the first line is the ego is your idea.
Yeah. Okay. Once you break it down into 3 lines and start looking at it, it begins to become more understandable. The important part off the first line is the fact that our ego is an idea. The second thing that's important out of the second line is that it's the of our physical image. And in the third line, the important thing that's important is to understand the word relation. Okay. So when you start looking at this deeper, what the ego is an idea that we have about our own image in relation to the world. So we're talking about a relationship, okay? We're talking about the relationship between the world and our idea of our physical image. Okay? And if you start getting it down where this starts to click, it begins to make sense. We have this constant idea of how we are presenting ourselves to the world. So the ego is our idea of our physical image in relation to the world. Now, this is very important to understand because this is usually the I that you relate to. Most of the time when you hear the word I, or even the word you, it's talking about this, the ego. Now I want to let you know just right off the bat, we are much more than this. However, we focus in on this aspect of it, of ourselves, almost exclusively. And actually so much that we miss a huge part of ourselves. And therefore we miss a huge part of what's going on around us during our lifetime. And we can enrich ourselves in the sense that we can learn so much more if we not only understand what the ego is, if we begin to put up some boundaries, okay? And what I want us to do is to sort of change our focus that the ego is used to doing. Okay? Most of the time we learn that the whole idea is to present an image to the outside world so that we will be safe and secure and get along. Okay? That's pretty much what we're going towards. And in the process, hope that we are liked. Right? Am I on target here so far? Okay. And in doing all of that, we are excluding a very large part of what we could be experiencing. There's different ways to experience each moment. So if we understand how we are experiencing the moment, then we can begin to understand how there could be other ways to experience the moment. So far, have I lost anybody? I mean, do you understand, Madison, what I'm saying?
Somewhat.
Okay. Say that you have this mask where you want to wear earrings really bad in order to present yourself to the world with the earrings, right? Okay. Then look at this sentence. That means that that's your ego that really, really bad wants to have your idea of your physical image changed with your earrings, presenting itself in relation to the world, see? See how that works? But it's on everything, whether it's your hair, your body, the way that you talk, your jokes. It goes really, really inclusive to almost everything. And the reason is our ego has gotten out of hand. Our ego is way too big. The job of what our ego is supposed to do is much smaller, and our ego has taken over and is causing us a lot of problems. We have to work with where we are, okay? So we have to start from this moment, no matter how big our ego is, begin to understand it, and change it for the better. Okay. You all follow me? Okay. So, do we need to redo this sentence, or will this be one that is understandable? And be honest here, because if you say you understand this, then we can go on, because there's a lot of material to cover. To me, I think this requires time and thinking.
Alright, are you saying to understand it or remember it?
No, in this case, understand it. We need to discuss this, have different viewpoints, talk about it, banter back and forth, give examples.
Well, okay. On the sentence that we have, I never thought of the ego as an idea. I thought of it as like a aspect of yourself.
Exactly.
It would be hard for me to think of it as an idea.
Right. And the fact that the definition here says that it is the idea of your physical image is important. The reason I picked this is because I want us to understand that aspect. We are going to be jumping back one level, okay? If we stay immersed in it, then we won't be able to see that we really are in control. If we stay so close to it we won't be able to understand that it's an idea that we can change. And I'll read an example now, okay, of what he's talking about. Okay, go back to the page before, and when he resumes dictation at 10:44, okay, and then it goes on and on and on and on and on. When he comes to the part where the paragraph starts about the artist, okay, the one above it starts with, you must be convinced that you can alter your beliefs, okay? Find that paragraph above it.
I have. You must be aware of the contents of your reasoning mind.
It's at the pause. That's right before
Okay.
11:10.
Right. You must be aware of the contents of your own reasoning mind. Go down farther, because there's the break, and then we're into the whole next section. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 paragraph. Everybody see it? Let's start with, you must be convinced, okay? I'm going to read a little bit. You guys ready?
All right. Where are we looking for?
I can find it.
Okay.
Right here. You must be convinced.
Oh.
You ready? Carol?
Yeah.
All right. You must be convinced that you can alter your beliefs. Okay. Now the reason I'm reading that sentence is because if we believe that the ego is your idea of your physical image, it's going to give us a greater grasp over it, rather than just believing that the ego is such and such, okay? Right. You must be convinced that you can alter your beliefs. You must be willing to try, okay? When he uses the word must, okay, he's not giving you any alternative. If you choose to take a different path, then you veer off from all of the information in the book that follows. Okay? Do you see how he's guiding us with those statements? All right. Think of a limiting idea as a muddy color and your life as a multi-dimensional painting that is marred. You change the idea as an artist would his palette. Now he's trying to get us to the point where we back off enough so that we realize we have control over our beliefs and our ideas, so that we can change the big picture, and then over a period of a few days to weeks it will manifest in physical reality. Is this clear? All right. Now listen. The artist does not identify with the color he uses. He knows he chooses them and applies them with a brush. So you paint your reality with your ideas in the same manner. Do you get that analogy? I don't think you do. Do you? Okay. Did you get it, Maddie? It takes some thinking to be able to do an analogy. You have to think about it. You can't be daydreaming. Okay. Let's start over, and please stay with us. The artist does not identify with the colors he uses. He knows he chooses them and applies them with a brush. Okay. Can you imagine an artist doing this? Okay. So you paint your reality with your ideas in the same manner. Look at that next sentence. You are not your ideas, nor even your thoughts. You are the self who experiences them. If a painter finds his hands stained with pigment at the end of the day, he can wash the stain off easily, knowing its nature. If you think that limiting thoughts are a portion of you, permanently attached to you, you will not think of washing them off. You would behave instead like a mad artist who says, "My paints are part of me, they have stained my fingers and there's nothing I can do about it." Now I read all that in response to what you said. If we don't think of the ego as your idea, then we aren't moving ourselves backwards one step and realizing that we are the ones who are choosing the idea or ideas of our physical image in relation to the world. Okay?
Yeah, it's interesting that we're going over this because today I heard Mike Huckabee talk about ideas and how you can choose to change your ideas.
Definitely.
And that it's better to choose to change negative ideas than it is to have those negative ideas replay themselves over and over for years.
Okay, is everybody following me so far? All right. Now there's one sentence on here that we have to write down. It says, "You are not your ideas nor even your thoughts." But I don't want to put that in a negative form, so we got to figure out how to do that. You are the self who experiences them. Okay.
Well, then you just the second sentence is the positive
So you are the self who experiences your ideas
and thoughts.
So that's what we want to write. You are the self who experiences your ideas and your thoughts. All right, now in order to sort of shift focus for a moment, and we will come back to this because part of what we're going to be doing is listing our personal beliefs, okay, and understanding how our personal beliefs are something that affects our reality. I want to go back to our different methods of arriving at what our personal beliefs are. We basically said there was two ways. You could either sit, quietly think about it, and write down your beliefs about yourself and reality. Or the other way would be as you're living reality and you have emotional interchanges, you stop, you follow that emotion back to understand what the belief was that caused the event. Right? Right? Now, you said you wrote a couple beliefs down, okay? Maddie had an event this week that I want her to address that will show the other way that she came to some of her own personal beliefs. Okay? Well, this occurred yesterday. Do you remember it, Maddie? All right. I was speaking, and in the process of speaking to her and giving her some information, I spoke about some of her weaknesses. That made her mad, and so in the process she wrote something down a little bit to express her anger as she was writing. And as the day progressed and we explored it further, she was able to reiterate why she was mad and list some of her strengths, which to her were some of her personal beliefs. You see how that works the other way around? Now me personally, I like doing it the way Maddie does. Okay? I like living reality, experiencing it Finding out what it is that makes me happy, I write it down. Finding out what it is that makes me mad, I write it down. Finding out things that make me sad, I write them down. And I don't experience it too often, but if I get fearful, then I'll make a note as to what it was. I like it that way. So I don't have a huge list all in one place. I have tons of books and notebooks that are part of an ongoing sort of journal of my life, and that contained within them are a lot of different ideas that come up, that occur to me on a daily basis. In the process of doing that, I've come to understand basically what a lot of my basic beliefs are. However, this is the important part. I did the work, okay? If you don't write them down, you're not going to be able to follow this through, okay? Now, I know, and listen clearly, that the process of doing this is a choice that you make. So in that, you are also learning about yourself. But he will speak to those who choose to not do this and go ahead and live their life based on accepting what other people believe about them, telling them, and then they accept those beliefs without examining them. Okay? And many of us do that. Even if we're in this process of trying to examine what's going on, we're going to discover that we have embedded in our minds a lot of what other people were telling us about ourselves. As a matter of fact, that's exactly what made you mad, was your reaction to what you thought I believed about you. And after we had a discussion later on, my response was that that was not my intent, and that my belief was different than the one that you thought I was thinking, you see. So, but either way, you can get down to your own personal beliefs. Now, are there a lot of them? I think there are. Does it take some time to do this? I think it does. Okay. Do you want to create a fulfilling life? I think we do. Okay. Are you fortunate that I'm giving you a method and an opportunity and exposing you to a book that can help you solve this? Yes. Can I make you do it? No. You make your own choice. And the old adage is you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. So, this is going to be up to you whether you take this opportunity or not. I personally, when I read this book the first time, in my opinion, I knew this is one of the most important books ever written in the history of mankind. Because contained in this book is ideas that will free the world and bring peace on earth, literally. And he even talks about it in these pages here, how to make it happen. Alright, I'm going to read a little bit tonight, and I want to go on and tell you about this. Now, we're going to go back to that place where I had you say the ego is your idea of your physical image in relation to the world. Okay? Got it? Alright. Read along with me. We're not going to write these down, even though we could write a lot of this down. We're going to allow ourselves right now to be exposed to these ideas and let us think about them. Okay? The ego is your idea of your physical image in relation to the world. Your self-image is not unconscious then. You are quite aware of it, though often you reject certain thoughts about it in favor of others. False beliefs can result in a rigid ego that insists upon using the conscious mind in one direction only, further distorting its perceptions. Often you quite consciously decide to bury a thought or an idea that might cause you to alter your behavior because it does not seem to fit in with limiting ideas that you already hold. Listen to your own train of thought as you go about your days. What suggestions and ideas are you giving yourself? Realize that these will be materialized in your personal experience. Many quite limiting ideas will pass without scrutiny under the guise of goodness. You may feel quite virtuous, for example, in hating evil, or what seems to you to be evil. But if you find yourself concentrating upon either hatred or evil, you are creating it. If you are poor, you may feel quite self-righteous in your financial condition, looking with scorn upon those who are wealthy, telling yourself that money is wrong, and so reinforcing the condition of poverty. If you are ill, you may find yourself dwelling upon the misery of your condition and bitterly envying those who are healthy, bemoaning your state, and therefore perpetuating it through your thoughts. If you dwell upon limitations, then you will meet them. You must create a new picture in your mind. It will differ from the picture your physical senses may show you at any given time, precisely in those areas where changes are required. Hatred of war will not bring peace. Another example. Only love of peace will bring about those conditions. So you can see in just 10 paragraphs or less, that last section I read in less than 5 minutes can change the world, literally.
So basically, would you say that it's the best, one of the best things to do, for instance, if you're in a situation that overall feels negative, then do you think it would be best to focus on something in that situation that's positive so that your mind is more focused on at least one positive aspect during that?
I have to speak from personal experience, because if I just talk about other people's ideas, I feel like I'm not necessarily giving you an accurate answer. Okay? This is what I find. First, I recognize that I am unhappy. Okay? Now, if you remember, out of the 4 emotions, which one causes change?
Anger.
It's sadness.
Oh, yes.
It's so funny. Sadness is the only one that's going to lead you to change, okay? So when people, are going through life, it's okay. But the sadness is a response to the fact that you don't like your conditions that you're experiencing, okay? So the first thing I do is I recognize, I don't know how I got into this, but I do not like it. Alright? So immediately I start searching my mind on ways that I can get to a different place, a different situation, a different set of conditions, whether it's changed my attitude or changed my outside environment, I know that overall it's all going to happen up here in my mind first, you see. Now I'm going through this right now at work. I've reached that burnout stage where it's been very difficult to even go into work. You remember on Thanksgiving I sort of exposed myself. What's so funny is after I finally laid it out on the table, it forced me to go back, and every second now, every minute at work, I'm conscious of it. And it turns out that it's only been 30 minutes out of the last 12 days, which is 12 times 12 out of 144 hours, only 30 minutes was bad. So what I was doing, apparently, was focusing way too much on the negative. Okay? And by exposing myself to the public, my family, asking for help, it forced me to go back and look and say, well, was this really what was going on? And as I'm examining it, I'm seeing the picture more clearly, understanding that it really was my mind that was painting a poor picture. So, the same way as the artist can paint a new picture, just examining it, not even having to really change too much, I'm already painting a new picture, and I'm telling you about it as it's occurring. Remember, I've said it, and now I'm telling you and everybody who sees this that that's exactly what happened. And I did not even have to go to the next step, which would be to try to literally change jobs or change the conditions. All I had to do was to start getting an accurate picture of what it was. And yes, there's some very difficult things up there, but the ones that really make it hard for me, it's only a small portion. Let's assume it was different. Let's assume that you're in a bad situation, okay? And when you get an accurate picture of it, and you start looking at it really clearly, maybe over 50% of the time things are not good, okay? For real. The way to change it, instead of focusing on the bad stuff, is going to be focus on the positive, like what you're saying, okay, first of all. And you have to do that in order to get yourself to the point where you are able to take the next step, which is to envision a different future, you see. But it's very hard to envision that different future when you're still concentrating on yourself because things are so bad. Now, once you start envisioning that new future, you have to actually accurately come up with some ideas of what you are really going to do as far as moving and making that new future happen. This is a process. We do have to act. Okay? We cannot sit around and hope that our hair turns purple and it just turns purple. Okay? You would have to go out and buy the dye and purple and dye your hair, right? Okay, I mean, we understand that portion of it. So you do have to act, but you can't even get to that point of saying, well, I want to think and change my hair purple because I'm just so unhappy that it's blonde or whatever. And I know that seems like a ridiculous condition that I'm talking about, but I wanted to show you that you have to actually do action. It's not just all thoughts, but the thoughts have to come first. You know, does that help you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I understand.
Well, that's about it for today. Let's look one more at the two sentences that we wrote down for today. It'll be called the ego, and we need to go ahead and put the date here for December 22nd, 2002. And this is the two main things that we need to remember out of today's lesson. You can box these. The first is the sentence, the ego is your idea of your physical image in relation to the world. Okay? And the second one is, you are the self who experiences your ideas and thoughts. he said that on purpose so that you understand you are not your ideas and you are not your thoughts. You are the self who experiences your ideas and thoughts. Okay. Once we get a grasp on these two, and they become part of how we think, then it's going to be easier for us to not only understand what our personal beliefs are, but begin to realize that they are like the paints that are used by an artist to make a picture, and that we can pick the ideas that are going to create the final picture that we want. And in this case, we are an artist that is living in the picture as we are creating it. And that's where we got lost and we forgot that part. And it's very easy to. This is an enthralling environment. And it's very easy to begin to think that what's happening out there as it affects us is the way it really works, but it's the other way around. It's what's happening in here creates all of this out here, and then we get the feedback. All right, I'll go ahead and say closing prayer, unless anybody else has anything to say. All right, well, dear Lord, thank you for having these minutes together, a chance to discuss ourselves, ideas about ourselves, and to begin to get some understanding of how we are relating to the world around us. Tonight when we sleep and over the next few days, hopefully we will expand and think about these ideas and see how it really works. Come up with examples and get together again in the future to talk about it. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Are we gonna watch a movie? Okay.
I love Monday people.
Thank you.
His hand on my hand. Put his hand on my leg.
I tell you, that makes me feel really good when he does that too. I feel like he really cares about me, and he really feels safe. He wants to be with me, and it makes me feel good then that he wants to be with me. It's so neat.
I figured out why he wants to go outside so much.
Like,
Because we're outside so much. And he wants to be with us. He wants to see what's out there that keeps us away from.
that makes sense.
Yeah. Because Sweetie, if she had her choice, if she wasn't scared of sugar, she'd come outside and inside it. She could be within 10 feet of me everywhere. She'd be happy.
Maybe
as long
she
as there weren't other
can.
people around.
Well, she could do that, right?